So, like I said, here for National Poetry Month, and I'm actually to kick us off, and we're gonna go right into the poetry after that. Go right into the poets here. But I had asked all the poets who were reading. I was like, oh, could you share like some of your work, but also work of a poet who has inspired you, and so I was like, oh, I had not thought about it. I was like, I should actually share a poet who, whose work I dig as well. And so what better way to start off? I feel like I start off workshops with this sometimes, than with Bob Kaufman. And Would You Wear My Eyes? My body is a torn mattress, disheveled throbbing place for the comings and goings of loveless transients. The whole of me is an unfinished room filled with dank breath escaping and gasp to nowhere. Before completely objective mirrors, I have shot myself with my eyes, but death refused my advances. I have walked on my walls each night, through strange landscapes in my head. I have brushed my teeth with orange peel, iced with cold blood from the dripping faucets. My face is covered with maps of dead nations. My hair is littered with drying ragweed. Bitter raisins drip haphazardly from my nostrils, while schools of glowing minnows swim from my mouth. The nipples of my breasts are sun-brown cockleburrs. Long-forgotten Indian tribes fight battles on my chest, unaware of the sunken ships rotting in my stomach. My legs are charred remains of burned cypress trees. My feet are covered with moss from bayous flowing across my floor. I can't go out anymore. I shall sit on my ceiling. Would you wear my eyes? That's a poem that I will sometimes start off workshops with, to just like invoke and invite, to invite Bob Kaufman in, but also just to think of one of the things the power of poetry can do, right? Which is just it creates a gap of understanding. We experience poetry emotionally, and maybe sometimes you can't like articulate with words like what you feel, and it creates these gaps, and within those gaps we start to feel in and fill in, memories. We start to fill in, pronouncements, or we start to fill in connection to other human beings. And that's what it's about, connection. So let me invite up M.K. Chavez. M.K. Chavez is a Black Latinx writer, educator, and curator. Chavez is the co-director of the Berkeley Poetry Festival, co-curator of Lyrics and Dirges, Wednesdays, and teaches and supports writers at Ouroboros Writing Lab. Chavez writes about identity, human injustices, environmental degradation, horror films, magic, and ritual. Dear Animal, check it out back there. Chavez's first full collection won the Penn Oakland Josephine Miles Award. Other books include Mother Morphosis, the lyric essay chapbook, A Brief History of the Selfie, and Virgin Eyes. You can find Chavez's most recent work among the trees in Golden Gate Park, Voices for the Trees project. So let's welcome up.
It's wonderful to be here, and I love Poetry Month because I get to see some of my favorite writers performing, and some of them performing tonight. I also want to just take a moment to acknowledge Kevin for all the work that he does, not just in Poetry Month, but every month. And I think that organizers often give the attention and the thanks you deserve. Thank you, Kevin. I really liked your prompt to bring an ancestor, to like even think about who inspires us, who has inspired us in the past. And there's so many people that have inspired me. And I decided to bring Marosa Di Giorgio, who is an Uruguayan poet. And I liked what you said, Kevin, about how, that gap, that it reaches a gap. And sometimes when we read them, it feels like I can't quite put words to why it connects, but I know, and I feel seen. And I'm just going to read an excerpt of 5 poems that are all untitled, that are part of a work. When I was an owl, I observed everything with my hot and cold pupils. No being, no thing was lost on me. I floated above anyone walking in the fields, my double cape open, my white legs half open like a woman. And before I let out the petrifying scream, all fled to the gold mountain, to the mountain of shadows, saying, in that thing in midair is a star. But also, I was a girl there in the house. Mama kept the mystery to herself and looked at God, weeping. And I decided to share her because not a lot of folks know who she is or about her. Let's see. It as a new hit apocalyptic TV series. On Thursdays, I'm a terror. The anxieties have built a sweet hereafter. We love an Armageddon. Life is more magical when it's monstrous. In the long hours before I could give myself over to the nightmare, a woman said to me, the gall of that woman showing up looking like a welfare mom, her hair undone and badly dressed. I could only say, in another annihilation, it was me. I was the welfare mom. I wore that label with spite, and I always looked good. The woman and I stared at each other like split gills, spiking electrodes at each other. On Friday, the world forgets its cruelty. Ophir cordyceps unilaterus reign. And in this make-believe world, we come together or turn into belligerent fungi. The survivalist finds love amongst bottles, bombs, and bottle caps of the mycelia apocalypse. And I wonder into the mirror, what will become of me? Will I explode dark orange and red, glabereth, now that I have fruited? And what of the living, all that can be felt and seen? Why, yes, I am watching The Last of Us. All right. Wesera. Oh, so all my poems are based on horror. You'll see. But there are no spoilers, I don't think. Wesera, or Bone Woman. Pure gold virgin looms. Shed yourself to the bone, conforming, contorting, good girl. Bones reconfigure for the purpose of fitting in. The roll, the house, the cleaning, the chasm, the hollowed out mouth, the missing tongue. Nature gnaws from the inside, and stone is wasted into sand. This consumption may return you to dust, broken down, but not gone. In celebration, we crack our knuckles, we rack the relic, we are marimacha strong, not made only to raise criaturas. We build things and eat of the wolf, which is the self. Why is it so hard to accept that caretaker is not tattooed into the groove of a woman's rib? Wesera is searching the lacune. each mystery of the body, singing, wolf. There is a woman that belongs. Oh, let's see. Okay. I have two more. Letter from Rosemary's Baby. In her red room, I emerge among poppy heads that populate wallpaper. Mother dreams that her bed is floating on a vast ocean. I watch how they undress her, this vessel, this woman undone. I pick her because she's sacrilegious and sleeping with Satan. I approve of her short hair and mini skirts. My mother is eating raw meat and upsetting the neighbors. I am the unexpected, the leading role in hot pink, I'm mass hysteria, the little nightmare, men making decisions about women's bodies. I'm primal, I'm baby gaze. Mother loves me like Mary, who doesn't need Joseph. I bring woe wherever I go. I love a single mother, all to myself. And I brought this one particularly because it really did make me think of the sensuality in Madrosa's work. Carnivorous. You, the uninvited, should have said no to the sleepover. You knew you hungered to eat her up. Tongue to skin, skin to meat, meat to bone. When someone looks at you that way, innervation sets off the spongy tissue, makes you alive from the inside out. Love, hemiapoiosis, that tangy feeling. Learn not to fear it. Feed it like a baby crow. Thank you so much.
Antony. Antony is a poet, is a Coptic American poet, educator, and artist living in San Francisco. His poetry has recently appeared or is forthcoming in the Oakland Review, New American Writing, Interim, the Sycamore Review, West Branch, and elsewhere. His paintings have been featured in art shows around San Francisco and LA. His chapbook, Karam, was published by Etch Press in 2019. His work has received support from the San Francisco Arts Commission, the Irving Buena Center for the Arts, and recently, the National Endowment of the Arts. Antony holds a Master's of Fine Arts from San Francisco State University and a Bachelor's of Art from University of California, Davis. Let's give it up.
All right. Thanks, Kevin, for putting this together. Appreciate it. See a lot of friends, a lot of new faces, some enemies. So the poem I'll be sharing from someone else is by a poet named Salma Sharif. This poem is called Reaching Guantanamo, and it is an exercise on redaction. A lot of prisoners are held in Guantanamo Bay, and their letters are redacted in like this almost inhumane way. So this is a persona poem as the lover of someone in Guantanamo Bay. And we're talking about gaps, so it's part of it. Dear Salim, love, are you well? Do they? You? I worry so much. Lately my hair, even my skin. The doctors tell me it's, I believe them. It shouldn't. Please don't worry. In the year, and moths have gotten to your mothers. Remember? I have enclosed some, made this batch just for you. Please eat well. Why did you me to remarry? I told, and he couldn't. It. I would never. Love. I'm singing that you loved. Remember that line that went, I'm holding the, just for you, yours. So she's an amazing writer. That is from her book, Look. This is called Dear France. France. Fuck you. Just kidding, that's not the poem. Dear France, you're an old excuse for a new country, a thief of a timepiece, keeping tabs on nothing but drywall, but myself, an apple rotting from the seed, a dieback, collapsing trees. This one is called, this is called Khuf, which is Arabic for fear. Never forget your mother woke you that morning. You ran to the TV. She said explosions. A tower collapsing into itself. A structure of sand. Aware where you stood. How flags can flash like hammers. How fabric and color can beg. Never forget learning you were Arab. The first time letters collapsed onto you like soil. Never forget hating yourself, your food, your music, name, what burnt knuckle hair smelt like when your mother dyed her hair blonde, plucked your eyebrows into slivers. Never forget the wet wrinkle of her scream when the second tower fell. That it meant something was to come. Your parents changed their names, airplanes, random security checks, being accused of trying to start a caliphate. Learning the word caliphate. The photo of Pope Shenouda. The trigger pull that followed. Never forget learning about Afghanistan, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Palestine. How you, your Persian friend, and your Afghan friend started a tagging crew called Arabs with Attitude. Even though none of you were Arab. White kids wanted to join. You told them they had to get jumped in. How easily abdomens give to driving knees. How pink white flesh can flush when they first said never forget, and how bad you wish they would. When your friend's dad said they need to just nuke all the fucking Arabs. How stiff his jaw looked. The terror in your father's eyes when he saw you wearing a shirt that said diamond in Arabic. How he calls you every time there's a mass shooter. How he begs you to shave your face. How 14 people were killed near your house in San Bernardino. And he begs you to shave your face. Never forget when your father told you that we deserve this. We changed the way the world travels. No other people have done this before. We have nothing to be proud of. This is Dear America. Fuck you. Dear America, I was 17 and blacked out. Relieving myself on a tree, and you tackled me. It was poetic. The red and blue lights flashing with the warmth of urine on my leg. The cop's knee into my spine. I was American. For the first time, I was yours. Thank you. This is Dem, which is Arabic for blood. So I'm going to be saying cops, but that's C-O-P-T-S, as in Coptic people, not cops as in police, because I'm not going to write a poem about police. Dem, that's blood. There were soldiers outside of the monastery in Old Cairo. The day after Christmas, barricades, metal detectors, AK-47s at hand with an extra clip taped or zip tied upside down so they could reload faster when the militants come. Tattoos of Coptic crosses on the right wrists are the only way to tell us apart. My bare wrists made them weary, as martyrdom stains faith, blotched in blood, ink, names, altars. The red represents the bloodshed wool. We wrap ourselves in the fabric of our dead sheep. Militant stop, buses full of cops. unload in the middle of the Sahara. Buses full of brown eyes, curly hair, just like theirs, melon balled raw. Empty shells and empty eyes peppered across strands of sand. We wear martyrdom like perfume. Children carry the names like petrol to skin, like extra clips taped or zip-tied upside down. Thank you. Dear diary, her mother asked, does he smell Arab? I imagine sour cream, rusted leather. If it's like a sentence, you don't gotta clap. This is, Dear Diary. A white writer in San Francisco said I was lucky to have all this culture to write about. I was a performance piece to him. I was art, sexy, colorful, exotic, spotted, loud like a misplaced auxiliary tip. The kind of art you look at and say, I could have done that if. Like this culture is more than burnt hair, American flags, and new names. Then I'll read one more. Or two more, sorry. It's short though. Haram, that means like forbidden in Arabic. My mother was 100 miles south of Death Valley when Karaz grazed her belly. The monastery was modest still. A couple Coptic churches peppered across a few dozen acres of the California desert. We ask you to grant us your peace, our Savior. Save us and spare our souls. My father was proud of my skin when I was born. My mother says he showed me to everyone in the hospital. A brown man with a son, white as an ostrich egg. Look, Lord, with merciful eyes at my weakness and my disgrace. Karaz traced a cross with olive oil on our wrists and foreheads the last time my father visited the monastery. He tried to kiss the bishop's hand, but he pulled away before his lips could warm meek flesh. We pushed home in hush. The sun sunk into my skin by the time I was 5. My father felt betrayed. He hated the tint of his own flesh, how it resurfaced in his skin like a bloated corpse.
Miss Judy Juanita. Miss Judy Juanita's poetry collection, Manhattan My Ass, year in Oakland, which I think there's some copies back there.
Yeah.
Won the American Book Award of 2021. Fiction collection, High Price of Pretty Ways. Yeah, that's a good one too. Won the Tart Fan Fiction Prize in 2021. Her semi-autobiographical novel, Virgin Soul, about a young woman who joins the Black Panther Party in the 60s, was published by Viking in 2013. Let's give it up.
Thank you for Kevin for this forum. Thank you all for being here. Whoa, a lot of people, give yourself a hand. So, two poets that have mentored me strongly are Sonia Sanchez and Lucille Clifton. And I'm still trying to write like either of them. They can write short, you know, and I don't quite have that quality down. But their concern with the body has helped me tremendously to be able to write that. So here are a couple of things, a few things. So I have a new book out called Godzilla, and I kept going to poetry readings and telling people racism is just like Godzilla. You know, it goes to sleep in the San Francisco Bay, and then it resurrects in another picture or two, you know. So this poem comes from there. It's called The Powerful Nurse, the Powerful Baby. The baby talks in the hospital drainage. I could have been a contender, a half baby, quarter baby, 8th baby, 16th baby. The baby sticks around, waiting for the nurse to come. He remembers her orange Dansko clogs. She can talk to the world about how he drowned. The baby waits for her to come back. but she works 4 days on, 3 days off. He's jealous of whole babies, screaming in expectation on the other floor. He wants to join their club. Nobody wants you, not even Godzilla. The baby has to join his kind in the sewage pipes of Los Angeles, New York City, Chicago, in the pipes 22 inches below the top ground. The baby would settle to be an atonement baby, and after 3 miscarriages baby. The baby wanted wholeness. He wouldn't have minded being ugly as Godzilla to be alive, to eat mush and grow teeth, to gather fuzz between his toes instead of guts swirling around him. When the shift changes, the baby becomes a rush of dirty water. The drainage clears the dream of being once and again. And this is a found poem from my mother. How did I get pregnant? Haiku. All my babies were rhythm babies. Okay. And this is for Lizzo. Where is it? Lizzo, my Lizzo poem. So some of you who write poems should know about New Verse News, because New Verse News will put your poem up if it's political poetry, and they'll put it up if it's about something that's in the news. This is called Lizzo, and they'll put it up in like 2 or 3 days from when you submit it, which is very unusual for poets. You know, we have to wait 4 months, even a year, you know, to see something in print. So this is Lizzo Fights Godzilla. Okay? Yeah. Okay. We is 100% behind you, baby girl, behind your superb black ass, behind your exponential black ass, behind all the big black women, we who are baby, we who are baby's kids, we who raise baby, we who raise babies, babies and baby daddies, we behind you, Lizzo. Show that ass. Put that ass on the Lakers scoreboard for the world to see your big fat cocoa ass. As important for the world to see as Emmett Till's bludgeoned face. Let them see what they did to my boy. Let the world see what they did to my boy. Let us worship Lizzo. That's right. Bow down before her big black ass, before her big black booty. Not injected into her backside by a Dominican doctor. Not leaking formaldehyde into her veins, clotting her heart, killing one more big, fat, implacable life. Fuck Brazilian butt lifts. Fuck the strip clubs that hire the women who pay with their very life for butts that sit high on their hips, 21st century Venus Hottentots. Fuck the only way these women will earn $2,000 a night, $3,000 a night, $4,000 a night, instead of working at Walmart. Yeah. Do the math. $15 an hour times $30 hours a week, so they don't have to give them health benefits. That's $450 a week, $1,800 a month. The living wage that Biden is fighting for. Get real. You hop on a plane to the Dominican Republic, leak silicone all over the seats, armrests, tray tables too, for a big black ass. A big black ass. Lizzo's black ass is worth gold. Diamonds and Gucci in the belly of the beast. Same place where Lizzo's army, yeah. A black-only army for the descendants of Buffalo soldiers and Tuskegee airmen. A big, black, beautiful army whose big, black, unbleached asshole emits the noxious gases called life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Same place where corner stores have filled those asses for decades with Hostess, Twinkies, Butterfingers, Kool-Aid, sodas, Hollywood, chitlins, hot links, potato salad, macaroni and cheese, sweet potato pie. Bebe's son, the athlete personal trainer, says with disgust, "Ma, this is carbo overload." But eats at the Christmas table too because he worships Lizzo once a year. We love you, Lizzo. Our anti-Lady Godiva, our anti-Kardashian, our anti-American. Miss America, you, the missing America. The antidote to self-loathing. You had to be huge, in our face, all over the place. You are the dream deferred no more. You cannot be invisible. You will not live underground, not one more day. Lizzo, our Lizzo, 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 you is America the Beautiful. Godzilla 2022. Just because Woolworth's lunch counters were integrated and black people could buy lunch there didn't mean that Woolworths wasn't fading. Just because blacks integrated the Academy Awards and slapped each other silly doesn't mean the institution of Hollywood isn't fading. Kevin Costner preaches to the minions with gravitas and brags about being 68 during the awards, while the sell-by date for females in Hollywood is 38 or so. The real problem is that Hollywood is as out of date an institution as slavery. But because it's so profitable for the slave owners, it hasn't faded out completely. But its time is up. So I have a favorite character named Anne, and she's in a play that I wrote called Counterterrorism. It's been on in San Francisco and different places. So a lot of her soliloquies fit into this book. And the first one, I'll just read a couple, but Anne the Truth Teller. Just because I'm out here on the street, you think I'm pitiful. A diseased, scaly monster. I could have $1 million in a mattress if I had a mattress. And not begging, and talking. All the philosophers not in the ivory tower, just like not all Christians in the church. So, here's Anne naming babies. Max! That's what I like about white people. They keep the same name, generation after generation. Max, 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 Max. Henry the First, Henry the Second, Henry the Eighth. Their names is not confusing. They don't care if the little baby look up at them, all funny like Mabel. Why are you giving me this tired name again? We do different. We go whichever way we get enslaved. What master name? John? That's my name. We get with the French and we name ourselves Denise, Charmaine, Eloise. We get with the Irish and it's Siobhan, Mickey. We went Swahili. Everybody had Kumbuka, Mboli. All the names sound like they got booger or booty up in them. Hockey, not booty. So now we got all these 20-somethings running around with Arab names. Ahmed, Muhammad, Siddiqui. They just sounded different before September 11th. Khalid, Abdul, and Hassan. My son's like your grandson is on the 22 most wanted list. And if you go to the post office and look at the faces, you don't see Ahmad al-Sheikh Abdullah. You see Miss Jones' nephew, what been living with her since he got out of prison. Or Tommy Green, who's 6'8" and can't play basketball. And white folks still naming babies Thomas and Jefferson and George. And here, and test. The Mexican never enslaved us, but showed me a black baby named Jose. And I'll read, Anne goes to church. I'll end with this. A white woman I know, one of my buddies, she big, got dishwater hair. On Sunday, she go up and down where the black churches are. First she go inside the open front door and estimate where in the service the pastor is. She know about call and response. She know where to climax. Then she walks out with her cane and her waddle. She bold. She go around the back door and check to see if it's a feast, waiting for the Sunday go to meeting folk. Cause she know about black churches. White folks church over. Zion. White folks out the door. Grace. White folks be at the Sizzler eating dinner. It's Monday morning, white folks at work. Sound. White folks be done got their paycheck and black folks still in church. And she help herself and keep on down the street as resolute as a street dog. She been doing this for years. Say her only good meal is on Sunday morning in the black community.
Sabina, Khan-Ibarra is a teacher and writer. She is currently working on completing her chapbook, telling, and her novel, The Poppy Flower. Her poetry, short stories, and short creative nonfictions have been published in various anthologies, including Non-White and Women, Taboos and Transgressions, both published within the past 2 years. She lives in Half Moon Bay, California, with her husband, 2 children, and 2 cats, Twyla and Aslan. Let's get it up.
So my name is Sabina. I'm honored to be here. Thank you everybody for being here and Kevin for putting this together. I'm going to read real quickly. The person who inspired me is somebody that's known in history and not necessarily for their poetry, is Malala of Mewand, and she's who Malala Yousafzai is named after. She is an ancestor, and she lived in Afghanistan. She was a Pashtun. She was a daughter of a shepherd in a village. And in the 1880s, the Mewand was attacked by colonizers, and she fought with her her male relatives against the colonizers. And she actually used her veil as a flag. So I look to her as an inspiration not only for her words, but also what she represents for women of our area. So it's a very short. Lende means short poisonous snake, and so it's very apt. It says, with a drop of my sweetheart's blood, shed in defense of the motherland, I put a beauty spot on my forehead, put to shame the rose in the garden. And then soon after, she was actually martyred, and but she's still remembered and people revered in the area. She's the one I chose. Let's see. And then I'm going to go on to my poems are not as positive and fun as yours, unfortunately. And I feel so. I feel like I'm coming after so many great poets. I feel a lot of pressure. So this poem is based on a photograph that was taken by Steve McCurry in National Geographic of an Afghan girl. The poem's called "The Afghan Girl in the Photograph We've All Seen." She sits still as he pulls her into the frame, the moment contrived and curated. Her green eyes match the stark door of a random house. To an unskilled eye, she's simply caught unaware, curious. A camera targets the light, illuminating the green flames. Contrasting red, she wears a torn sadar, framing her naked face. She stares like unknown moonlight. Spectators adore her innocence. The photographer becomes famous. Later, she recounts her terror of the moment, and poverty ages her before her time. The next poem is called A Cavern of Many Tongues. My grandmothers wrote stories with the black grandeur from their majestic eyes. Inked words washed away, with the 7 seas their children crossed. Salt from the oceans that tear my tongue too dry to speak. English, Pashto, Pashlish, Ingshto, amble inside of me, unable to make the treacherous trek through the desert. War swims between a dying language, whose outfit is tattered from gusts of neglect, but honor and history fortify her core, and a new language, who builds her home, unshakable and lasting. My mouth makes space for new words, a tongue that becomes 2 becomes many. My teeth fall out and the words begin to drown. They gasp for life, the old and the new. My flesh, silent, absorbs the polyphony of expressions. A salve of new vocabulary, I lick my skin, my mouth waters, my belly lurches with vision that become the tales I now impart. Words spill with no container to hold them. I scribe using ranja for my own eyes, regal as my grandmothers and mothers. Will my stories be read? Will my salt be consumed? Will my history be erased? Promises are empty dishes that feed no one. His forefathers, elders of the village, a slice of the earth, his promised inheritance. What more could you want? His father asked. His mother, on her prayer rug, hands cupped towards the sky, prayed for equanimity between the father and son. He dreamed in life colored in adventures past the mountaintops. He wanted cowboy hats and long leather boots, a tongue that held the twang of white. He devoured books, studied hard. Top marks were the only ticket out of his world. His mother lit candles in the dark night, fed him with almonds and warm milk. Her concoction preserved his eyes, nurtured his mind. Promise me you'll be back, she whispered into his hair. He nodded, his eyes shut with America-colored glaze. So this next one was inspired by events that happened a few years ago between Christine Blasey Ford and Brett Kavanaugh, and at the same exact time there's an incident that happened in Pakistan where a young girl was raped and murdered. He was the son of a powerful man, and it was difficult to arrest him at first, and eventually was brought to account. Sacrifice, the song for the girl with the name you forget. Ya Qurban, you once had a daughter. When she told you she was scared of his eyes, you told her to cover herself. When she said when he had touched her, you said to be quiet. When she said he hurt her, you beseeched her not to shame you. When she said that he would kill her, you told her to go gently, quietly, Ya Qurban. When she was gone, guilt filled your bones, grief became your flesh, and you wished. You had been a mother who lifted her daughter's voice instead of killing it. Ya Qurban. Elder 1. In a village near the river, inside a home with grand turquoise doors and tall walls, by the well in the courtyard, a woman rubs my skin raw to make my hands as fair as my face. She combs knots from my hair, strain on my parents. She covers my head with a sadar. My mother deserved a boy. I think of all the ways I disappoint. Jai too bitter, stride too long, chin too high, tongue too much, mind too big. I must be tamed. Elder. Elder 2. She draws a piece of candy from her pocket. A secret she places in my palm and folds my fingers over the sweet. Don't change. You are a mountain, she breathes. Mountains don't dance for others. They remain as they please. I suck on the hard candy, the syrup coating my tongue, the only proof that the frowning woman staring back was a mountain in hiding.
Let's keep the poet, Giovanna Lomanto. Is an Oakland-based Pushcart Prize-nominated poet and teaching artist, an alumnus of UC Berkeley and a current MFA candidate at NYU's Little Residency Program. Her work has been featured on KALW, the Worth Writer Art Gallery, the SF MoMA Archive, and various literary magazines. She is the author of 2 poetry collections. Oh, there's a third. I think that's coming, right?
Yeah.
Nobody in particular, and Jupiter Fell Out of the Sky Last Night, as well as a poetry box art edition called Erase This, Prose Poem for the Sentimentalists from Right Edition 2021. She simultaneously serves as the co-host of the Living Room series and salon at Syzygy in San Francisco.
To everybody for being here, and thank you to Kevin for having me, and Alton for also having all of us in your building currently right now, and also giving us free drinks. Cheers to that. So I am here with a quick story about one of my mentors. For my poet ancestor, I actually decided to go into the prose realm. I'm so sorry. But one of my biggest writing mentors was actually Fangary Ng, who wrote this book, Bone, which is amazing. And it was one of the first books to be published by an Asian American woman when Asian American was one of the first, it was one of the first uses of the term Asian American, and specifically an Asian American woman writer. I also find that I learn a lot from other writers as well, which makes sense because a lot of the poets that preceded me are also educators, so shout out to educators. And she taught me a lot, but also taught me about the power of an ending and how it should not have anything to do with plot. So here is a no spoiler version of her ending. The heart never travels. I believe in a holding still. I believe that the secrets we hold in our hearts are our anchors, that even the unspoken between us is a measure of every promise to the living and to the dead. And all our promises, like all our hopes, move us through life with the power of an ocean liner pushing through the sea. All my things fit into the back of Mason's cousin's Volvo. The last thing I saw as Mason backed out of the alley was the old blue sign. Number 246. Up there. No one has ever corrected it. Someone repaints it every year. Like the old timers' photos, Leon's papers, and Grandpa Leong's lost bones. It reminded me to look back, to remember. I was reassured. I knew what I held in my heart would guide me. So I wasn't worried when I turned that corner, leaving the old blue sign, Salmon Alley, Ma and Leon, everything, back there. I'm thanking you on behalf of Faye, honestly. But this poem is also calls to mind a lot of ancestors that I've written about, and is also taking a title stolen from the new SZA album. It's called Another Dumbass in the Machine, after the song Another Ghost in the Machine. So, bumbling. With no thanks and astringent tongue, your lover is crass and bristled. Her shoulders a shaking sort of novelty. You cannot wring its temper this time. Its microwave timer yell in the kitchen. She does the same, without pause. A pot to bubble over the gas stove she forgot how to use. She forgets. She doesn't remember how to hold her wonton skins together. The stuffing expounds, the Maya Angelou caged bird sings, and she jumps at the thought of equity. She falters. Your mother laughs. It's all good fun. Her poking stride, her bumbling, her no thank you, her no thanks, her no gratitude, her bell hooks love regardless, her Janice Miracatani feast, her Famian Ing bones so tired from the white coursing through them. Her wish for the bumble. Your lover knows that the ground is tumbleweed-infested fields, and that even the smallest of brushes will tickle her into oblivion. And she will laugh. It is so absurd, she will not stop laughing. It is so unthinkable, it's as though it's not real. It's skin whitening cream in the summer of 7th grade. and the way your skin crawls at the sight of a slighted kinfolk, the phrases of causality, as though it's not a cut because it didn't sting the slicer when she broke skin. It is so absurd. And she will laugh. And she will bumble on. And she will know thank you at the next table. And she will bumble on. In also thinking about ancestor poets, I was thinking about my literal ancestors, including my grandpa, who I write a lot of poems about, who passed away a couple years ago. And this one's called, I'll Pray for You When You Leave. And I'll do a damn good job. The priest will send a recommendation to the Monsignor, who will send a glowing review to the Archbishop, who will skip a few steps for the Cardinal, and maybe the Pope of the people will hear your name said aloud. He'll say it one day in the Gold Line Vatican City balcony, and you'll laugh because you're not even Catholic. And I'm not even Catholic. And we've just played the biggest prank on the church since the time those kids TP'd the courtyard at St. Joseph's, and the Pope will still not know. He'll still say grace falls at the hands of the meek, and our meerkat smiles will chuckle because you're not dead yet. Because you're still here. Because you're still waiting for me to come home from the hospital, your glazed eyes not watching the TV, just fixed on the clock that hangs crooked above the screen, and I'll do a damn good walk into the house, give you another hug just like the last time, and I'll tell myself that this is not another joke, that this isn't just a fever dream in a moment I play over and over again to hear your yell of relief over my shoulders, and maybe it's real. And maybe it is. But I'm not sure the Pope can hear my prayers once we meet again, when our waking bodies alter our flesh and ash. This poem is called Brown Jesus Didn't Die for This. I swear he didn't. I swear on his life that the plague wasn't him. Locusts were nowhere to be seen. His brevity, a callous factor in the timeline. His birth, no excuse for a new time after death instead. I swear, he would say okay to my bisected polarity. He forgets about the time before his birth, when his father quit his job and lay on the bed for months wondering what his pregnant fiancée did in her freest time, and I would write about it. And I would live it in his honor. And I would know of it because I went to a church named after Joseph. Growing up, Joe, they called me, in their butchered accents, and its untucked top sheet, the slew of tissues over the side, the salt-stained blankets. He didn't die for this. And I'm just there. Just Joe. Just waiting for someone to shake me out before I go to the corner store and buy myself another pack of spirits and regret the decisions of my nicotine lungs. I remember how my dad quit smoking so that I would live longer. And so I smoke an extra cigarette to line the grave I dig on his behalf. If he won't do the work, I'll be damned if I don't do it myself. Because Brown Jesus doesn't even care if I die. I'm resurrection bound anyway. And in my last poem, I'm also going to pay tribute to a poet named Sarah Kay. I don't know if you'll know her, but she's amazing. Sarah Kay, she ends all of her poetry readings with a love poem to lighten the mood and also to just pay tribute to love. So this one's called Fossils. Scrounge breakfast as a meal. Find it crash, clang, clawing when the heart breaks into fluorescent light. This shrapnel was not made for us, and my glue is right beside the chalk outlines on the floor. Your breakfast, my crime scene. Bite hard down on the toast, too burnt on butter. The sweet graveled sugar will lick you back anyway, I promise you. You look at me with doubt and a feigned excitement, and perhaps one of the widest grins you've given since September. It's been this way. And you text me when you have gas, and I verbally tell you when I have gas. And it's something we always joke about, and then we juggle our hidden courtesies, your arm wrapped around my sides as we wake slowly, flower stems turning to the sun and back. The mornings are upheavals of night terrors, the final curtain call for the evening, and I start when I wake. You start, and leaf your arm around me, and we sit as I uproot, and I scrounge breakfast as a meal. skillets on the counter, and the reflection looks like starfall, and you receive it with a smile that says, like it did in September, that it'll be better this time too. Thank you.
David S. Maduli is a Filipinx father, husband, poet, and educator. His work, often inflected by many years as a DJ and public school teacher, has received the Joy Harjo Poetry Prize. Born in San Francisco, yeah. He is a longtime resident of East Oakland. Oh gosh, I'm like, so sorry, I'm messing up, and I was singing Lainey Wilson earlier, and I was like, I don't have that range. He's a longtime resident of East Oakland, Muwekma, Ohlone Land, where he completed his MFA at Mills College with a fellowship in community poetics. In addition to his work in public schools, he teaches an MFA and writing program at Lindenwood University. Let's give it up.
Ode to the Ollie, landing on a line from Tejuko. The first scrape and drag of the skateboard's tail is a striking match. One motion, 2 feet to grip tape, 4 wheels from driveway to deep space street. Enough vibration between rocky asphalt and polyurethane wheels to circulate blood from feet to fingertips to cumulus clouds. From the bottom of the hill sounds like a strafing. Curb is a looming island. Gather spirits from pine and aluminum. Pop of the tail is the sidewalk's finger snapping. Lunge at the cracks in air. Above the brick waves, disappearing into the wrought iron gate. The day offers no shade or shadows. Each morning is the beginning of a summer. Heavy waters above and flowing waters below. I want to give full credit. That last line comes from Tejuko's remarkable novel, Open City. Shout out to skateboarders, and shout out to the Embarcadero, just a little bit over that way. When I was an adolescent coming up, that was the epicenter of the skateboarding world, and I would be there every day from my grandmother's house, my Lola's house in the Outer Mission. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks to all the poets. I really appreciate this invitation to honor ancestor poets. What kind of writer or parent or teacher, human being would I be without them and those that have taught me, nourished me, and shaped me? And to be able to give them flowers while they're still here, especially the ones that are still alive, is, I think, really important. And so, therefore, I'm going to read a poem by one of my greatest teachers and dearest mentors that I've had in life. Shout out to the Palestinian American poet from Brooklyn, New York, Suhair Hamad. I'm going to read her poem Zaytun, which is Arabic for olive trees, also refers to the southwestern quarter of Gaza's Old City, and it's from her collection Born Palestinian, Born Black. Wherever you are, Suhair, she's probably on a bus in Staten Island, Shaolin, rocking a Wu-Tang beanie. I love you. Zaytun by Suhair Hamad. Where? From here, a ribbon of land smoking, within the girl's hair smoking, wire, wood, word, smoking. There are bodies here, micro-mosaic children, a triptych exile against wall. My dead are rescued, a closing of crossings, a scatter vapor of earth, a trance of metal. Where? From here, I am all tunnel. Here's a poem that hopefully is in that tradition. Also, shout out to Kevin and Giovanna. Their poems inspired me to write this one, or pushed me to write this one. It's called On Ancestry. I come from Bata'an's flamethrower sun, searing Lolo as he marched. bayonet at his back, then packed in a boxcar, concentration camp, concertina terminus, dirt floor, bamboo hut soup, calabash scraps, pellagra stew, cups of malaria, officers' insignia, Pangasinan infidelity, citizenship's chicanery, 33 months in another prison camp, in another war. I come from Lola's shout of surprise when her husband came home again. I come from Lingayen Gulf, blue crabs in a pot behind a Pandesal bakery. I come from a chest-high heap of snails picked from the rice paddy seedlings, bunching onions in a Monterey County field, racing tractors, wrenches and grease. A bay window on a cluster of streets bent to form a bell beyond the boundary of a tourist map of the city. I come from the fog that has no name. What is a grandchild? It is saltwater's arabesque. What is ancestry? It is the grapefruit dawn after earthquake aftershocks. What is homeland? It is a poem buried in the backyard under Lola's deathbed bedroom window. Thank you. Last one I'm gonna read is also written directly after another one of my dear mentors, the OG New Yorican poet, Willie Perdomo. For time, I'm not gonna read his poem, but please go and read it. It's called Crazy Bunch Barbecue at Jefferson Park. It's fire, and it's from his collection called Smoking Lovely. So morning, evening, after Willie Perdomo. The East Oakland cul-de-sac party for Hector's 40th. Oh man, that blocked off dead-end street might actually be a barrio in Ilocos, or Guadalajara, or East Los, or East Oakland, where it really is. When the DJ throws on Belle Biv DeVoe, even Abuelita is getting down on the walkway up the porch, and there's a taco truck pulled up, and pancit palabok, and pulled pork with King's Hawaiian bread and mac and cheese, the opposite of the scene at Mosswood Park that morning when you took the kids to play and hipsters were spread out on a blanket with a box of Pete's coffee and another box of La Farine pastries, hella taking their shoes off and lounging on the spongy playground surface, way too comfortable, encroaching on the swing set zone so much you're practically tripping over them as you try and push your son, and you wish the angle would be just right on the upswing. His foot would catch a laughing newcomer on his upturned chin. Oh, but Hector's party. Big Al bear hugs you, pours you a paloma, tequila, and ice cubes topped with squirt, points to the table where your wife is wiping your daughter's face and your son is bouncing his way on the cinder blocks circling the tree and chuckles. Bro, that's your beautiful family right there. You know that? That's you. And I knew you before all that. Before her, I knew you after some shit went down and you didn't know what was gonna happen next. You didn't even know what you were doing and where you were going, and now here you are. So don't fuck this up. Because if you fuck this up, it fucks me up. It's nighttime now. The opening synths of I Got Five on It echo up to the hills. This better be the remix with Richie Rich, someone shouts. And of course it is.
Ayodele. Is a multi-hyphenated artist. Brilliant actress, true. Producing director, true. Playwright, true. Poet, true. Dramaturg, true. Performance consultant, true. Educator, true. Community advocate, true. So much more. She is the director of the Lower Bottom Players, Inc., Oakland's oldest North American African theater company and founder of Lower Bottom Players Summer Theater Day Camp. She is co-founder of Jonga's House, a Black women arts collective, and a founding member of Black Space Collective. She's the executive director of the Black Arts Movement Business District Community Development Corporation of Oakland, and founder and producer of BAMDA Fest, International Biennial, and a month-long arts and cultural festival animating the Black Arts Movement Business District in Oakland. Nzinga holds an MFA in Writing and Consciousness, a PhD in Transformative Education and Change, is a Cal Shakes Artist and Investigator alumni, San Francisco Foundation Arts Leadership Fellow, member of the Alameda County Women's Hall of Fame, recognized by the Theater Bay Area as one of the 40 faces in the Bay to change the face of theater in Bay, it's true, and is recognized by the August Wilson House as the only director in the world to direct the complete August Wilson American Century Cycle in chronological order. Ooh, a YBCA 10 Fellow, a BIPOC Circle Fellow, and a Voices Community Journalism Fellow. Nzinga is the inaugural poet laureate of Oakland, California. I mean, it's so
That was a long intro. So, I am the inaugural poet laureate of Oakland. I heard an interesting story today, and I believe in serendipity. I had thought of a poet earlier this morning, and at an earlier reading, Kim Shuck shared with me that the original thought for a poet laureate in Oakland was Mr. Reginald Lockett. And Reginald fell ill, and they never announced it, and they just never had another poet laureate since after, or never completed the idea of having a poet laureate after Reggie died. I was fortunate enough to be in readings with Reginald Lockett, and I brought a piece called Where the Birds Sing Bass, which is considered to be the best poetry book of 1995 out of Oakland, California. Absorbing a taste of magic, trying to figure the flavor 12 minutes past midnight Thursday morning, walking somewhere on San Pablo Avenue. I stopped in an obscure juke joint for 2-3 beers. Tinkling sound of a quarter in the jukebox, blues twanging guitar, Lucie putting it down on the table where you could see it, feel it, notice really. Man rocking to her electric, sensuous rhythms, eyes shut tight, white and gold teeth flashing on his paint-smeared black face. Lucille, BB's lady, talking about friends. Friends. I remember them in the right light in Friday and Saturday evening breezes harmonizing, signifying and guzzling Greystone, Thunderbird, Ripple, and Green Death. I think about the way the purple, yellow, red, pink, and loud sky baby blue slacks, sweaters, and coats beamed in the streetlights' glow. The Stacey Adams and alligator shoes that smiled. Sweet Charlie fried, dyed, and laid to the side in a one-button continental suit. High boy shirt, wide paisley tie, and burgundy pimp shades. Winning every game at Moon's Pool Hall. Cadillac dreamers hanging in there where we still die unnatural deaths at the hands of imported cracker cops, anal retentive educators, mentally constipated politicians, and conceptually incarcerated drug dealers. In a town, in a town, in a town. In a state, in a state, in a state. In a nation, in a nation, in a nation. So bad, even the birds sing bass. Like that, huh? Okay. She say, you got to look. She say, you got to look to see. She say, you got to see further than looking.
It all got lost in the crowd. Everybody turned backwards, eyes closed, trying to understand how the day got here. Ain't no pennies in the drawer. The dresser lives on the sidewalk. The sidewalk is melting. Don't look and maybe you won't fall through. You remember ain't nothing underneath. Even the graveyard moved. You forgot everything and it's too late now. Pennies pay the ferryman. Hope lives on the other side of the river. Think hard, it might stick out. Charts, lucky powder, and time. How did today get here? The face in the mirror got stars for eyes. Wolves in Lamborghinis issue orders for new worlds. Crane and bulldozer dream neo-colonial blueprints for a cultural renaissance. Bones ground into feathers, trending on eBay and Etsy. All artists report immediately to Homeland Security. RFPs required before completing your current thought. Where are your blueprints? They didn't see the crash coming, chasing the wave overhead underwater after pawning the guns in rage. Your breath on the outside of the window steaming the surface. You wrote your name. The sun came up. Your dresser living on the sidewalk. You broke the mirror because your grandfather kept trying to escape with those North Star eyes. Praise turned to American blues. Fingers move, looking for pennies in the door. Speaking hope like fragments of language forgotten in shards of mirror on melted sidewalk. Roots in a pouch, hanging near your rib cage. Dangling from the cord, suspended from your third eye. Something is always dying. Just not in the middle of the room. They were roses before they were mulch. 5 pennies in a drawer. A beggar's feast is better than an empty basket. All stories start with the potential of happy endings. I walked for miles in the eye of the storm, blinded by the sun I sought. For 7 miles, I was a full moon with 5 pennies in my pocket. Life is a dream that ends upon waking. Roses and illusions die. Centuries underwater, sleeping phantoms deep, the bones and I. Sometimes death saves you for life. Roses floating on the water, 5 pennies in a drawer. Now that's the smell of hope, she said. But she never quite understood that metaphors dressed the truth for dinner. A meal of ghosts walking on the water, mostly bone, but some have eyes, floating across the graveyard. North Star eyes dream of locomotion. Transplanted trees grow in the direction of home. My MLK walk resurrected itself on a milk carton in Harlem. Then it became black berets and leather coats and guns. Locomotion became movement. They were roses before they were mulch. Something is always dying. Minutes, murder hours, every sunrise light cuts dark. Raging bullets next to the hope in the drawer. Bones on the water, bleeding lions onto the street in the flow of lost religions, dangerously feeding the lumping. Baraka said, every man should see himself when thinking of God. Spotlights and sunsets buried my 5 pennies in the back of my mind next to the chatty dead people. I wanted to be a river, but the ocean branded me. One hand a spear, the other a shield. Neither tool favored. The dead won't shut up. They got them pennies and they rattle them like dice. Something is always dying, just not in the middle of the room. The wind won't leave me alone. Got me watching fig trees and praying to grapevines. Crows and doves watch over me, knowing I too want roots. That dream drowns 1,000 times a day. Sharks and itinerant poets prophets riding dirty, God's trombones. Joshua rode into Jericho with the confidence of Hannibal. I got an 8 for some good green, some gin for Ogun. I favor brown liquor, drums and gods of thunder. I talk to the dead. We got pennies for eyes, and they rattle like dice as we float across the graveyard, ruthlessly defying the storm, riding on the wind, rage and bullets in an open drawer. I got one more for you. It's called #WeBegin. Spell number 13 will become your lucky number. I learned to fly at Mama's house, learned to remember how escapes are part of my legacy. A dead lady told me my eyes would grow later, but I need to know now, you dig? I did. She said, you already know, and I knew. Now she and some other dead folk took an early interest in me and sent me dreams, sleep work on things I would put to sleep at dawn, trying to survive daylight to root work at night, wrapped in protection, dreams that demand you pay attention. You got to move in real time, willing things to survive, to uncover instructions tucked deep inside metaphors, clearly cryptic like bones thrown, requiring action, nocturnal odors. Altars want construction, lucidity dreamed, vigilance demanded even in sleep. A classroom where metaphysicals teach sliding in and out the in-between, slip out and leave your body behind. No one can follow into rooms with no walls. The universe is an eyeball. That's you down there. You think from above. Before more up there opens, cross over into the nowhere that leads everywhere. There's more room inside than one imagines. Whole oceans, places no light reaches. Creatures never discovered find space in space, which is endless. No end to out there. No out there. We are all. No in there. We are alone. All else is the dream acted upon. Waking like religion you believe. But I learned to fly at Mama's house. I know better.
Pereira. San Francisco-based writer and educator. Her work has appeared in Honey Literary, the Hellebore, Mason Jar Press, and Yes Poetry, among others. She teaches creative writing at Children's After School Arts and the Elder Writing Project, and is co-founder of the Reading and Food pop-up series, Kitchen Table.
I'm so honored to be here celebrating with all of these incredible poets. Thank you to Kevin, the living room, the Alton. It's just such a pleasure to be here. And I am very much on the same wavelength as Judy, the ancestor poet that came to mind immediately for me was Lucille Clifton. She's someone whose work I just return to over and over again, and every time it just hits me. So I'm going to share a poem of hers about being a Lucie, and then a poem of mine about being a Lucie.
Sorry. I turned it off. I'm sorry.
Okay.
What? Stop. Stop it. Where's my grandson?
This poem is called Lucie and Her Girls. Lucie is the ocean extended by her girls, are the river fed by Lucie, is the sun reflected through her girls, are the moon lighted by Lucie, is the history of her girls, are the place where Lucie was going. That's Lucille Clifton. And then I have one called A Self-Portrait as a Gemini. It's something you can't make heads or tails of. I scorn nicknames, but adorn myself in the misspellings. On my fake ID, I was Lucie with a Y, and that bitch was a mess. But at least she managed to tuck me into bed each night. Okay, so that's not true. More often than not, she'd curl up on the floor after crying into the toilet bowl. But always, without fail, she'd shimmer her way home. Plastic Arizona license in the back pocket of her skinny jeans. That's beside the point. The point is, now I spell my name backwards so I can read it in the mirror. Now I sketch myself in antonyms and pile on contradictions to keep warm. That's the shine of it. That texture you can't pin down. It's the clinking glasses at the dinner party and the talking shit in the back seat on the way home. It's the traffic light glimmer on the car windows, the mystery and the multitudes, the darkened sand exposed in the ebb that still remembers the liquid freedom of the flow. Speaking of being on the same wavelength as Judy, I also have a Godzilla poem. So I love a theme for tonight, very specific theme. This one's called If I Was Godzilla in San Francisco. I would stroll down Market Street without stepping on the cracks, and I'd squash Salesforce Tower under my heel. That stupid fucking dildo of a building, that alarmingly irregular spike on the city's electrocardiogram. Just grind it into the pavement and let the dust linger. I'd scoop all the traffic from the Bay Bridge with my pinky, like a Q-tip in the groove of an ear. Then I'd pet all the cable cars until they purred, and I'd tilt Coit Tower just for fun, so the tourists could take posed photos like they do in Pisa. I would bend all the bars at Alcatraz and let the ghosts roam free. After that, I'd take a bath in Stowe Lake, and I'd let the ducks nest on my kneecaps, because that would be cute as shit. When I got hungry, I would snack on a bison or two, and brush with a eucalyptus to freshen the breath. At sunset, I would let the frigid tide at Ocean Beach wash over my scaly toes, and in the face of the endless waves, I would finally know what it's like to feel small. I would laugh when I made the snowy plovers scatter, and I would cry because I made the snowy plovers scatter. Just a couple more. I'm getting married this summer. That means that someone is gonna put up with the annoying shit that I do forever. So this is a poem for my fiance. It's called Leftovers. You hate that I forget my unfinished tea. You find abandoned cups on every surface, amber and cold, half empty, sometimes half full. I know that you hate this. I know how easy it could be to finish what I've started. Dispose of the dredges from a morning in motion. Let the remnants circle the drain, a little cyclone of closure. But I lead a life stitched with loose ends, and you won't let me kiss you with lipstick on. So I find other ways to leave echoes, to graffiti myself onto your memory. I was here, I was here, I was here. So many other leftovers you love, stained secondhand sweaters, and kitchen utensils belonging to no one. A house stocked with souvenirs of roommates past. I think if I'd come to you shiny and new, you'd have hardly known what to do with me. My undrunk tea, your magpie eyes, how lucky to live with complaints such as these. I'm going to close out with just one more called Atmospheric River. Silver currents carry us to the next day and the next. In this meal, a memory, saffron stained and sweet. In this house, a history that bleeds. In this air, a silence greener than anything you ever knew. Green enough to make your deserts dissolve. The landscape will close you in. In this place, your breath is not just a bad habit. In this dark, a question is just a question. The sky is wet, and the water is air, and the atmosphere is a river, and you will open your sails and welcome the flood, knowing that sinking wouldn't be the worst thing.
Landon Smith is a father, a professor, a poet, a painter, half Mende and half Bologna, half Bolanta and Fulani, That feeling of falling that wakes you up in a dream. The amethyst geode on your desk. Angela Davis's afro. Frantz Fanon's pocket notebook. Walter Rodney's fingernail. The 710 bowling split. Your favorite pillow. Despite his institutional degrees, he really became a poet through the Eastside Arts Alliance in Oakland. Hey, Landon thanks his older sister Aaliyah for buying him his first journal. Starting his ever-evolving relationship with words. You can often find him processing the world through poetry. And there's a book of poetry back there. I'm just saying, you can grab it. Let's give it up one more time.
My poetic influence is, as it was alluded to in Ayodele's poem, Amiri Baraka. I'm not going to read the whole poem because it's hella long. But if you have not heard or listened to Somebody Blew Up America, I would encourage you to. I'm going to read like the first part and then you'll see which parts influence mine. But, Somebody Blew Up America. They say it's some terrorist, some barbaric Arab in Afghanistan. It wasn't our American terrorist. It wasn't the Klan or the skinheads or the them that blows up nigger churches or reincarnates us on death row. It wasn't Trent Lott or David Duke or Giuliani or Schundler, Helms retiring. It wasn't the gonorrhea in costume, the white sheet diseases that have murdered black people, terrorized reason and sanity, most of humanity as they pleases. They say, who say? Who do the saying? Who is them paying? Who tell the lies? Who in disguise? Who had the slaves? Who got the bucks out the bucks? Who got fat from plantations? Who genocided Indians, tried to waste the black nation? Who live on Wall Street, the first plantation? Who cut your nuts off? Who raped your ma? Who lynched your pa? Who got the tar? Who got the feathers? Who had the match? Who set the fires? Who killed and hired? Who say they God and still be the devil? Who the biggest only? Who the most goodest? Who do Jesus resemble? Who created everything? Who the smartest? Who the greatest? Who the richest? Who say you ugly and they the good lookingest? Who defined art? Who defined science? Who made the bombs? Who made the guns? Who bought the slaves? Who sold them? Who called you them names? Who say Dahmer wasn't insane? Who? Who stole Puerto Rico? Who stole the Indies, the Philippines, Manhattan, Australia, and the Hebrides? Who forced opium on the Chinese? Who owned them buildings? Who got the money? Who think you funny? Who locked you up? Who owned the papers? Who owned the slave ship? Who run the army? Who the fake president? Who the ruler? Who the banker? Who? It's much longer. It's like 5 pages. You'll hear which part influenced that for sure. And I kind of wanted to switch up what I was going to do because Antony and I kind of always vibe on the same frequency, and I was going to do part, and he did a poem where I was like, oh, I have a line like that. But, sorry, next time. There are 2 less feet in the tent this evening. Somewhere, a prison guard gives another closed-fist speech about order. The air thins above a tent pole eviction notice while a new jumpsuit is handed to a tooth on a cement floor. Nikki Bass photo shoot next to gentrified housing while Noel Gallo votes to steal more Fruitvale money into patrol cars. Leach van ready to pile up bodies just to bleed corners dry for development while Gary Yee red tags another black school for prison bed construction. At least there will be clean street corners, a dirty mouth in a suit will say. At least there will be law and order. Dirt is always better when swept under a rug or at least onto the next encampment. And 3 tents blown on the other side of 580 will lower property value just for more protest signs to pop up and be ignored next week. But did you know there is no such thing as an empty bomb threat thrown at a black house? Greenwood and pine still can't move past the cement with marrow mixed in, so excuse me for taking white history seriously as I walk down these HBCU steps with the target on my back for what another white board member bans a book from speaking on. And another black mayor steps up to a podium to say, it is a shame. Or, in these troubling times. Or, we are better than this, despite all the evidence otherwise. As a matter of fact, who is we? Who be this we in backroom meetings? Who be the we turning the wheel on the ship? Who does we saying we are part of the problem, saying we do it to ourselves, saying we can't get respect until we respect ourselves? Who? Who does we coming sideways out your mouth talking about mo pay for leeches to put up see something, say something signs and turn around and pocket out bomb threats to black campuses talking about we better watch our back, we better hurry up and die, we better go back now that the labor costs more than the ground meat on my back? Who? Who does we supposed to be a part of? Who does we supposed to be better than? Sitting on the left side of an abandoned building because I took white history for what it is and spoke to the remains of the last threat, shoveled onto a whitewashed MLK quote, shoveled onto the left hand of a Philadelphia cut short, shoveled onto a Tulsa, a Rosewood, I am on pace to be called a nigger 212 times by summer. It is January, and there are only 10 days left in this month, and I refuse to be a corpse by the 3rd, but catch me fist closed on the 4th, and I might be gone by the 5th if this white woman in power has her way, which is the same as that white man in that seat, which is the same as that last missed check, which is the same as that eviction notice. My mother says the cloth of my ancestors makes me bulletproof. So I put on a new head wrap every time passive-aggressive headshots fire off of cradle tongues down into the gutters of unswept streets where I'm told that I belong. And I walk around with cash just in case I pass another cardboard sign, giving a fortune to crates just to see more hungry mouths the next month. It's almost like I cannot fix these encampments on my own, like starvation is intentional, like billions in surplus don't exist. Maybe by the end of this poem you can tell me what the cause is. While I kick 3 more election pamphlets off my doorstep since I don't do drugs on Tuesdays ever since my neighbor overdosed on Kamala Harris bumper stickers. Meanwhile, the city of San Francisco made $90 million in parking tickets. Just to not have affordable housing. Just to hire more pigs to put tickets on windshields, to pay for pigs putting tickets on windshields, and my last $60 goes to the cardboard sign again. You know, a fist fight is always fair to the waistband with a gun tucked inside. You know, an eviction is always fair to the feet standing on a bankroll. But my cousin told me that not all skin folk are kinfolk, so I keep 2 feet in my back pocket so I land on my feet when I'm sucker punched between line breaks and a neoliberal slides the judge lump sums to slide me into solitary silence so that a white tenure professor could tell you that these are not poems. That these are lyrics, that these are a soapbox, and that they are too unhoused and must cut their hair before they deserve a home. But did you know there are children in prisons? That was not a punchline. Sometimes I just like to interrupt poems with facts, like capitalism is a plague, or there's no such thing as a white South African, or there are too many white people walking dogs in my neighborhood. One had on a Yay Area shirt, called the pigs on me, said my hair is disturbing the peace. You know the first rule of Fight Club? Is don't listen to white men. And what good is a fight club that they never fought for the scars on my back? Took me 3 summers to find my voice. Had to use violence to do it. Preach violence for violence sake, then break the jaw of the softness nobody would listen to. And then, y'all consider burying me with my poems when I started to speak from a Lorraine motel balcony about the gun tucked under my tongue that I stashed behind the curtain, waiting on the next bomb, the next bomb. The next time a bomb shows itself at my doorstep, I will arm myself with thoughts and prayers. And the hot takes of white people, because ain't shit more violent. You know, imperialism, been walking with a hole in its leg the last 3 summers. Threw up flares about Cuba and China again. You know, this empire shit ain't gonna last anyway. And I got all gold teeth, so my poems would appreciate over time. So you would take my words more seriously. So you would Africom nightmare yourself to sleep in a rocking chair made from my great-grandmother's whittled bones. You know I talk to my childhood home on Sunday nights? Hoping I find a time where failure doesn't mean I'm 2 puddles under a tax-paid tower while my child learns to fail while being fatherless for the first time. I hope I left enough time in their poem to be a reason so that they keep trying. Warden cold pressed every fallen brick of my grandmother's home into my ashes before I left. And maybe I learned that violence only fails when violence fails. And I was never successful after all. And I only have enough love in my heart to fail this one last time. I'll leave you this poem in my will. A message that you have to be quicker when they come for you. I am ready to know home, wherever that may be, spinning Tracy Chapman records under my still body while clutching Walter Rodney and my rigor mortis fingerprint on my way to find peace somewhere. Florida back roads, talking to the skin on my upper back. Saying they got some leather for me if I don't keep moving. And on the wrong side of a train track, you might find my solitary body. Sundown sheriff caught a whiff of it, started unclipping holster, not knowing that in my left palm, I pack the souls of the field, but in my right, I shoot back at cops. Ain't no sunset long enough for the last breath in my left palm, so I sing blues spirituals. Before you ask me why I choose violence, I can't know peace yet. Not with this grass slicing ankle bones, Not with these worn down tires still begging for freedom, On behalf of the hands gripping my left palm, I have no choice but to back alley the backwoods, buried disposition between Polk County plantation fences, and I might dance tonight too. Cut a rug one time for the ones who cut bondage from their left leg to kick the bucket with their right. I stare this plantation pig in the face, knowing that to be invincible is to carry the souls of the field with me, and to tell that judge that I am not sorry, because talking to hope is dangerous. Especially when hope puts weapon to palm, dims the lights and can't see itself anymore, decides freedom means finally returning fire, Pulling shells from the left hip and turning coots into a 3-course meal. Flicking scraps out of molars with a new appetite for finding freedom in one less uniform in the rear view. One less speech about the law. One less press conference about this land that breeds genocide every Monday morning from the breath of its latte while hope gets pulled from its home by the toenail asking itself why not shoot back. While peace gets pulled from hope's left bicep before the lights cut out and the only body hope has left is the one picking bullets out of teeth. Thank you.
Sydney Vogl, who recently won the Cow Creek Chapbook Prize for that chapbook, Cry Baby. His copy is back there. Yes. Grab it. And the Jane Underwood Poetry Prize. Their work has been featured in or is forthcoming in Iron Horse Review, Honey Literary, Tusculum Review, and Go City Review. She currently serves as a poetry editor for the San Franciscan magazine, which you should subscribe to and check out, also dope. And works at an independent publisher in Berkeley. Their debut chapbook, California is Going to Hell, was released in November 2021. Let's give it up.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for having us. This has been a really wonderful night, and everyone's just been incredible. Can we give it up for the... As I was thinking about poets that inspire me, I was thinking about teachers I've had that kind of have also given me the gift of more teachers by introducing me to other poets. And so the poem I brought is called Introduction to Quantum Theory by Franny Choi. And last month at AWP, I was at a reading and I saw Franny Choi having a very emotional conversation with Patricia Smith. They were both crying. I don't know what they were talking about, but I witnessed it and it felt like a moment in history. So Introduction to Quantum Theory. There are only so many parallel universes that concern us. In one, he isn't dead. In another, you drink light with your hands all winter. There is a universe in which no one is lying emptied in the street as the gas station burns. A universe in which our mothers haven't learned to wrap their bones in each small grief they found. There's a universe in which there is no difference between the past and the ground, another where the ocean pulls the moon, and so on. This is an incomplete list. It has been abridged for your comfort. I could tell you about the many universes in which bad things happen to people other than the people you love. Yes, in another life, it's someone else's sister who climbs to the roof that night. In another life, the boys rise darkly from the asphalt to choke the engines of cruisers, and no one gives birth chained to a hospital bed, and no one's child washes blue ashore. Sure, you can have these worlds. You can warm them in your hands at night, but no, by signing, you agree also to be responsible for the universe where the oceans glow red, the universe where what we call shadow is pulsing with the musk of hooves, and especially the one in which humans exist, but only in the nightmares of small children. Will you hold that one too? The version of the story that never learned to consider sound, and the one where sound is only the opposite of metal, and the one where the sound of metal is never enough to quiet the dead. So I'm going to read a couple poems from my chapbook, Crybaby, which fittingly has a lot of water damage on it right now. They laid on it somewhere off the highway in Colorado, almost to California, to a shower and a new apartment with a cypress in front, and that was too heavy for a Tuesday. They tell you about the crack in the floor to tell you how it got there. When they straddled the kitchen island and fought a boy for their last innocence, a vase full of flowers tipped over the edge and lit up the floor. Okay. Okay, this next one, Crybaby kind of explores my definition of gender and how that kind of became very fluid within the pandemic. I feel like it was the first time that I had space to realize how much I was catering to the male gaze and what felt good in my body. So this poem is called At 3 a.m. on a Tuesday, I Start Questioning My Gender. I only ever knew two ways to be a woman. I wanted both and neither. My father's sun-drowned shirt on my back with my mother's lipstick smeared across my chin. Whatever it meant to be tolerated in a strangle of boys at recess, whose tongues were not yet serpents, whose hands had not yet grown inside me, I wanted that. I take a cleaver between the summer my chest grew ripe and fattened and everything before that. My womanhood erects within a hall of mirrors, and my mother says it's supposed to be this way. Fingerprints layered on top of each other so I can't tell which are mine. There have been so many hands, and no one looks me in the eyes anymore. Most days there's a moth living between my palms. I spend nights feeding her safety with cupped hands. I tell her I'm afraid my femininity is a collage of what I think it means to be a woman. I tell her what I can't tell anyone, that every Sunday I husk myself into the grass and walk home lighter. My doctor thinks I'm getting the IUD to prevent pregnancy, and I let her. I don't bother explaining the blood is the latest flood of inconceivability. My favorite season is the month where mangoes are perfectly ripe, but no one knows yet. There are no fingers tearing into flesh-sucking meat from pit. They sit untouched in the grocery store, passed up in flavor of berries, still sweet, but most importantly, easy. No one trusts the mango to be soft yet. I'm gonna read some new-ish stuff. This first one is called If You Need a Reason. It's kind of about how in certain relationships, survival can mean becoming a shapeshifter and all the things that you might turn yourself into to have some self-preservation. If you need a reason. Because you are a ghost in a baseball hat. Because you're a mouse skittering between boots, avoiding all things that might devour you, like the girl's fingers on the flesh of your thigh. Because every day you make yourself into a Sunday afternoon so the air around you is easy, the choice to stay is easy. Because you are the ripest, juiciest apple at the market and they genetically modify apples now so she can't bruise you. Because a mirror might be better, perched on the stained couch across from her. So you are a mirror. You say what you want for dinner at the same time. She wants dumplings. Because you are the entire universe holding the space she needs, you'll go to one end of the Milky Way and she'll go to the other. Because you are a splayed open frog and her finger is the scalpel, she takes what she wants of your brains and your rubbery bones and what you ate for lunch yesterday. Because a year later, at a dive bar, you will tell friends a story of a girl who turned you into a honeybee. Because you thought if you stung her, you'd have to amputate parts of yourself. Because you are a firework lit up only in the daytime. Because eventually you won't even remember to tell the story. Because you are a Valentine's card. You dote and dote and dote on her plastic pink heart. Because when you run into her in the park, it's been 3 months and you are a movie theater. Feel the booming in your chest. You do an impression of someone who knows how to make a graceful exit. Because you are a half Novocaine mouth and this is how she likes you best. Because eventually you'll practice forgetting what the tattoos on her chest spell out. You will turn snake. This is not a metaphor about shedding what you don't need. You will learn how to swallow whole and alive. This is my last poem. It's called Death Bloom. I was on a road trip and the person I was with taught me about these things called death blooms that grow kind of out of the apex of succulents and oftentimes can be fatal. And it'll bloom really beautifully and then the plant's dead. And once you see it, it's already too late. And I thought that was a a very poetic metaphor for life and how we all have our own death blooms and we just can't see them. So this is kind of the poem that came out of that. Pull your body out of the mud and dress it in your grandmother's fleece sweater. Find the person you still think about on a Sunday morning when your lonely bones have faded pink and pull open their curtains. Tell them it's the last warm day of the season, even if it's not, and slice an apple so thin you can see the whole San Francisco skyline through it. And let the slices melt on your tongue because nothing matters in a way that means everything matters. Because you are calculating how fast you can get to the coral reefs and not thinking of the washing machine which has flooded twice this month, or the way your father's breath caught against his teeth when you were 12 and he was volcanic. Don't you see? Your chest is blooming and we should push the living room furniture against the walls so there's more room for swimming, and touch the temple of your mother's graying hair because now we can see the boulder tumbling towards us. But it's always been there, hasn't it? Haven't your ears always been waiting for the sound of a car rolling off the cliff? And you said you would learn to cook if you had more time. And speaking of time, there is none. You are already an exposed nerve being plucked away. Thank you.
Get to that place, Let's get it one more time. And let's do it for all the poets who will be tonight. And let's give it up for you all for an amazing good evening. I'm just gonna say this is a shout out to Stephanie and Amma who gifted me this shirt, and I just love it. I was like, this is, yes, this is what I try to live by, and making space for connections. And so, in that spirit, we're wrapping up, but connect with each other, connect with the poets. Again, got some books back there. Connect with each other, just like share a line with something that. I feel touched. Throughout. Share something that touched you with someone who you don't know. Connect with the space. If you just want to sit in a corner for a minute and be like, this is just beautiful. Check out whether it's the art, whether it's the plants, whether it's out there, whether it's questions. Just make a connection. Thank you all for being here. Much love, and we'll see you again.